Special thank you to our sponsor, iGenX. iGenX isn't just a small business. It's a powerhouse ally ready to tackle your agency's toughest tech challenges head on. Specializing in low-code, no-code solutions, advanced analytics, and project management, iGenX is your go-to partner for both federal and commercial projects. But what sets iGenX apart? As a Salesforce Summit-level partner, the company brings unparalleled expertise across the entire Salesforce ecosystem. From MuleSoft and Einstein and Tableau, the expert teams at iGenX don't just build solutions, they engineer them, crafting robust data pipelines and creating stunning visualizations that drive real results. At iGenX, success isn't just a goal, it's a promise. The team is dedicated to delivering measurable benefits that transform your operations. Ready to partner with iGenX? Contact the team at info@igenx.com, spelled info@eigenx.com.
I am constantly challenged with how do I help and deal with what I experience now as a woman executive, but more so, instead of it just being about, well, what do I deserve, or what do other female moms deserve that are, new moms in the workforce, or not even new moms, but still maybe the primary caregiver or the single caregiver or whatever the case is. How can I help for the long term? And I feel like the way to help for the long term is to provide better connectivity between fathers and their children early.
Welcome to GovCom Unfiltered, where your journey through the labyrinth of federal contracting begins. I'm Alexa Choi, your guide and host on this epic adventure. Here, we dive deep into the heart of government contracting, shedding light on the heroic tales of those who navigate its complex terrain. Our mission? To bring you closer to the action, revealing the critical steps, triumphant victories, and occasional pitfalls that our intrepid adventurers face. Your journey into the world of government contracting starts now, and we could not be happier to have you with us. Let's embark on this adventure together. Hello, thank you for joining GovCom Unfiltered. I'm Alexa Choi, the Chief Operating Officer for G2X, and I'm being joined today by Olivia Trivisani, the CEO of Amivero. Tell me your origin story, Olivia. I've known you for many, many years, and you and I know each other personally and professionally. But tell me how, I know that you weren't like a little girl being like, ooh, I want to start a contracting company when I grow up, right? So what were the steps that got you here, and what really gave you that fire in your belly to be like, I'm going to start my own company? Because you probably knew working at small businesses in the past, it wasn't going to be like really easy. So tell us your origin story, and I'll let you talk.
Okay, sure. So interestingly, and I don't know where this came from, but I actually did always want like my own. It started out, I wanted my own candy store. Then I wanted my own like gift shop. And then I wanted my own like Hallmark store. And then, so it kind of, for some reason, always was a little bit of like my own type thing. But who knows, right? Kids say a bunch of things, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're talking about. I guess I just loved ice cream so much and loved candy so much and loved, that. And I saw with those things, joy that brought to me. And I think as a child, saying that I wanted my own was because I wanted to bring that same joy to others. And so I guess from like a more, heartfelt, deep down inside origin story, it would be that ultimately I just wanted to show appreciation for everything that I'd gained in life growing up and the things that made me happy. And I wanted to give it and multiply it out to the community and the audience. So I say this is part of my origin story because I think the theme is that in order for me to make it in the world, I had to network constantly. I had to make new friends. I had to try to connect with people on all different kinds of levels, anything that I could to connect with them so that I could feel more comfortable in this consistently inconsistent world, right? Like the only constant was change, constantly moving, constantly new people, new languages, new curriculums. And so, when I came to the States, I also had a hard time here in the States, felt like a not American. One would call me, global nomad, third culture kid. Those are the tendencies. Those are the different terms for foreign service kids, as an example. And so came down to Virginia, and I tried going back to school again and just started working. And that immediate gratification of sales was a driver for sure. I started selling Cutco knives. I did that for many, many years. I had a franchise with them, ran Prince William and Fauquier County. And then
Which, by the way, I just have to say, I have Cutco knives and they're bomb. So,
they're
they're the best knives in the whole world. So that's
they
all.
are. Thank you.
You work for a market leader selling anything.
I know it's easier. That's true. But again, back to like connecting with people, right? Helping them feel comfortable working with you, helping them trust what you have to say, all of that kind of stuff. It's really important. And then honestly, applying to work at Input at the time was,
which is nowadays GovWin.
right, or Deltec, right? Deltec and
Deltec's GovWin. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're all GovWin. Everyone knows the GovWin part. And you know, inside sales, outside sales, account management. I was there for 3 years, you know, rising up. And I was just teaching other people how to sell to the federal government. And then 9/11 happened. And it was the first time that I really felt unsafe here in the United States, as opposed to what I had experienced overseas my whole life.
Right.
And so there was this like passion moment for, I need to do something about this. And so I want to sell to the federal government. I want to help them. I don't want to go government. But I do want to help. And so I applied in sales, which is what I knew best, and started working at CSC in business development for DHS, and
Right.
moved up into delivery, then became an executive running both within DHS, then went to NightPoint Systems, which is our protege company. So again, back to like relationships, connections, like I worked closely with NightPoint. We helped them, we mentored them as a company. So I got to know them a lot better. And it was when it was time for them to need somebody like me, and time for me to make a move, I made that move. And actually part of what, you know, is interesting, well, maybe that's another question.
No. Please
go.
go ahead. I want to know what you think is interesting, and and then I have a bunch more questions, but go into what you think is interesting, and then we'll go from there.
What I thought was interesting was I remember being married and wondering if I wanted to have kids or not.
Right.
And I remember asking my female manager at the time, when is it the right time to have kids in your career?
It's a good question.
And her answer was, it's never a good time. So you just do it whenever you want to. And so then interestingly, I don't think she meant anything wrong by it.
Right.
And this is just an example of how we also filter so much of what we hear through our own experiences, judgment, whatever. So for some reason, I didn't hear the second part, which was probably her being very giving to say, like, there's never a good time. So just, you know, like, you need to do you. But I didn't take it like that. I took it like it's never a good time in a career. And that led me to think maybe that wasn't the right, you know, place for me also, or the right, yeah.
So that being said, Olivia, how does Amivero support its young working mothers? That's a softball.
Yeah, no, I'm actually really proud to say that it's not just mothers, but it's also fathers. We have a phenomenal paternity program. And I do think, this is Olivia speaking, not HR approved necessarily. I don't know.
Yes.
So as you know, I am a woman CEO who is definitely still the primary caregiver at home. And that does make it difficult to also have the more challenging profession and career as well. But I have a son. And so I am constantly challenged with, how do I help and deal with what I experience now as
Right.
a woman executive? But more so, instead of it just being about, well, what do I deserve, or what do other female moms deserve that are, new moms in the workforce, or not even new moms, but still maybe the primary caregiver or the single caregiver or whatever the case is. How can I help for the long term? And I feel like the way to help for the long term is to provide better connectivity between fathers and their children earlier on, so that maybe it's not as often the female that's the primary caregiver.
Right.
And I'm stereotyping here, and I know, and all that kind of stuff, but or not, I don't know what statistics say. This is just my experience. And so by offering paternity leave,
Right.
I am hoping that those men take the opportunity to really connect as a family with the child, with their wife, or spouse during that time. And and so that in time, it's a more even balance at home, if we're going to continue to have more dual income households, and enable and encourage the women to, rise up, advance. And with that advancement and rising up comes those heavy pressures that in general come with those, higher responsibilities. And so,
Okay, so let me see if I correctly understand you. At Amivero, you have a paid maternity program and a paid paternity program
correct.
that is like equal to each other.
And well, beyond and more important, it's not equal to each other, because one, it comes with certain medical benefits that just part of like healthcare and things like that. One is just something that we pay for and offer. And
Yes.
and so it's different from like what's offered and how much is contributed from the business,
Right.
and also how much each gains because of the difference between one that's through insurances,
Right.
with what Amivero does on top, compared to just what Amivero does. But I definitely, as we grow and have more money, not every organization can invest in everything. So that's why it's important to have diversity in leadership, because we all have different passions and prioritize different passions. So we're going to end up investing in the things that we feel most passionate about, and investing and giving back. And so I give back in the things that I'm, most passionate about, which is typically what happens, which again is why it's important to have diversity in leadership, because they may choose different things.
Right. So in a services business, which is what Amivero is, right? You fight for talent in a big way, especially in this market. But I feel like you can win. This is a closer for a lot of people in their 20s and 30s, and even 40s, right? I mean, really equitable maternity and paternity leave is something that not every company cares about, right? They might be focusing on other things, like you kind of mentioned, like maybe they have a better comp plan, or you're like, whatever it is. But I think this is a closer for a lot of people.
So, I would agree. And I do believe this is why, we have phenomenal retention numbers in the 90s.
That's actually true. I've noticed that about your
We
company.
have like really, really incredible retention numbers. What we try to do, because we have a director of strategy. People strategy means that they have talent acquisition and talent management. And that means that people are in different places in their life
Right.
at different times. And so what motivates them or what's important to them may be different over time. Maybe money initially was what mattered most to them. Then balance is more important because of where
Right.
they are with their family or a parent being ill or something like that. Maybe to them, it's like, you know what, now's my time. Like, I want to let my spouse not work, so I need to move up. So now like upward mobility and management is key, or whatever the case is. Even in my experience, it's like, I remember as CSC and SRA, as CSC was like delayering in order to cut costs so that they could get onto the market and then end up merging with SRA. I was doing a lot of those cuts. I was being asked to let a lot of people go. But at the same time, I was very young in my career. I didn't really know what was going on. I remember like offices were available all over the place. I'm like, can I have an office available on the 8th floor on the corner? And I remember my manager telling me things like, sure, just don't get too cozy. You know, things are always changing. Duh. Like I still was just like, whatever. And so, you know, I would ask for whatever I wanted. Didn't really realize exactly what was happening. I just thought they were like cleaning up or needing to make, you know, more profits for the, you know, shareholders or something. I'm not really sure, but I maximized on that. And a lot of people left because they were afraid. I knew I had incredible value to offer. So I learned through that whole process. And once I was sort of read into what was happening, I was just like taking note, so that I could understand how business operates. And I think that's also like really important, is that regardless of what motivates you in your position, like I teach here at Amivero a course called Managing Up, which some people think it means that like either you manage your boss because your manager like isn't good or whatever, and you need to manage them. Or some people think it's like kissing butt, like, you know, you're giving your manager whatever they want so that you can get promoted.
I see.
On the contrary, it's kind of like, listen, you as an employee, you got to admit it, you don't have 100% control.
That's right.
More often than not, it's your boss that does. So understanding what your boss needs, wants, how they like to communicate, what are their triggers, what, you know, that kind of stuff is important to know for your own success. You're not doing it for your boss. You're doing it so that you could be more successful and provide more opportunities for yourself. Exactly. Exactly. And so I think that's been really critical to a lot of our fast growth also.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Let me ask you a question that I didn't rehearse with you. Sorry in advance. A lot of what you're saying kind of like strikes me as like a woman-owned business method, kind of like, you know, a kinder, gentler approach of supporting and lifting up people. What are some of the differences you see between being a woman-owned business as you compete in the industry with probably mostly male-owned businesses?
I never thought it was like a male or female thing. I'll be honest. I didn't start Amivero to like be a woman-owned and make it about women. That wasn't it at the time. Then I realized when I was in the position, and I realized how many people were in need and of a strong woman leader that could be themselves, and not feel the need to be like men. And it's not necessarily like men, it's just like what they knew existed before. So it's not even like a male female thing. It's just that males tended to be in those positions. And when you're rising up in the organization, you tend to emulate what you see. And so I saw, you know, a certain way that wasn't as comfortable for me. Here, I'm not 100% comfortable even in, you know, myself and the way that I manage.
I think eventually what you were getting to was like creating safe spaces for people to be humans. I think I'm just putting into words kind of the thing that you were talking around.
I think the difference is that I don't know if it's necessarily a male-female thing, but I would say that we are definitely more emotional here.
Yeah.
With that emotion, that emotion probably comes from more of the human-centered aspect of the way that we manage and operate. Like there is a lot of empathy
Yeah.
here. And that is wonderful and something that I'm super proud of. But I'll
Right.
be honest, it makes working in a business harder.
Oh, I'm sure
And
it does, because you still have to make those hard decisions, have the hard conversations, measure people against metrics,
it would
and
be
things
so
that are
much easier to make those hard decisions if I didn't feel so connected to
yeah,
all those individuals. Like I ask them how their weekend is because I truly care how their weekend is. When their child comes on the video, I truly want to say hi and see how they are and what they're doing and say hello. And um yeah, so it's very hard when you've got a whole business and you're constantly trying to outweigh what are the negative impacts of this individual and what's going on, say, in their personal life or all of
right.
that kind of stuff that's impacting work. How much do you give and take? And it's,
Right. That
you
you
know,
bring up a really good point, that it's not a male-female thing. 100%. Like I think we both know males that are compassionate and empathetic, and when they have to fire people, they really struggle, and I think there is an old guard way of doing things, and a lot of men were leading companies that acted that way. But I think it's more of like a changing tides of people in general, and like how we approach each other, how we treat each other. And I always bring up Brene Brown, but Brene Brown daring greatly kind of stuff, where you lead with your heart. And I think men are absolutely in the mix. So I didn't want to like alienate all the guys listening to this.
yeah, no, I mean, it is, I mean, people come to our page all the time and
Yeah.
they tell me things like, oh, I could tell you were, woman owned or whatever. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, like, I mean, you could say again, it's like a little bit of a stereotype, but I ask like why, thinking it's like, is it, I don't know, girly or whatever. And it's just, it's so compassionate. It's
Oh.
so, touchy feely. It's so,
Woo woo. That's another fun word people have been using these days. It's so woo woo. I don't know what that means.
really, I'm
Yeah,
not.
like a Gen Z thing. I don't know. I wanted to pivot over to technology, and ask you, what trends do you see happening in technology and government contracting that you are really aligning to? And which ones are you seeing where you're like, I think we're gonna wait for the hype to die down a bit? Like, what are you seeing these days?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah,
And I equate it to stock all the time. And I tell people, like, based on where we are as a business, we need to make decisions in the same way that if you are doing your financial planning and
right.
it's like, well, when do you want to retire and how much do you have saved up? And so what long-term stocks versus short-term stocks are you going to invest in? And so we talk about like the RPA, the AI, the ML, that kind of stuff, a little bit riskier because it's taken, a little bit longer to grasp onto, to
Right.
really fund, but you know big risk, big reward, right?
Right.
So we have a mix of those. The ones that we are is definitely in the AIML space, because agencies like Homeland Security, GSA as a shared service, tend to have lots and lots of data. And
Mhm.
it's like, for years, I've been wishing we did more with that data. So now it's like, it takes forever to collect it. Now,
Right.
you got the inventory, now put the governance over it. And then what are you going to do with that information? And then how do you enforce the governance that existed so that that data stays clean and that you can continue to get good decision-making support from? The other is identity management. I actually started this when I was at CSC and we had the E-Verify program. And I'll
Mhm.
never forget, we like paid lobbyists to go to the Hill to talk about to talk about Viz or E-Verify, or I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that, but I think that's how it happened. There was like lobbyists or some, for anyway, anyway.
Lobbyists exist to do a job. So yeah, that's one of the things.
I don't know like who's allowed to pay what or whatever, but so scratch that if I don't know exactly like how it was done, but it was to help to verify American citizens for working, especially in the GovCon space, right? And so early on, I experienced that. Now, because we're at CBP, ICE, and CIS, and I see the individuals and the process that they go through, and the biographic data, the biometric data, the,
Right.
the medical data. Like, there's so much data about an individual
Right.
that can also say so much. And I do think that when it comes to like cyber attacks or fraud, really, if we understood better people's identity and what technology is even associated to the identity that they are, we can learn a lot. And at the same time, you have to educate people on that, but that's not something that we do as much as the technology part.
Right. Awesome. I really appreciate that. We're going to move into our final 2 questions. But that was really great. And I know that Amivero is set up for success across a lot of different agencies. And I cannot wait to see you guys winning across a lot of FedCiv orgs outside of DHS. I'm just like waiting to like come across them. And I'm like, ooh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
So the 2 questions that I always follow up and wrap up any conversation with anybody. The first one is, if somebody's out there, and there are probably a lot of somebody's, especially younger ladies, looking at you as somebody that they look up to, what would be 2 pieces of advice you would give them? That's the first question.
Great question. And I did think about this. So I hope it's a good answer for many. The first is that we believe what we say. And so I would encourage any young lady and anybody to speak positive words of themselves and to believe in themselves. I remember many times looking in a mirror saying, should I put lipstick on before this meeting so they take me more seriously? Or, do I need to open a button or not? Do I need to, like all of that kind of stuff, just because,
Right.
you're trying to get the deal, you're trying to whatever. And by giving into those things, you are reinforcing those things.
Oh yeah.
So one piece of advice would be to be careful what you say and do, because you are enforcing a habit to many and to yourself. And you want to really have pride in who you are, how you represent yourself. The second goes back to probably my origin story, which is always be networking. You can learn.
Good piece of advice.
You can learn from everybody. Like, always be a student in the business, always be asking questions, always be listening, always be connecting to people, because again, what they say is coming through a filter. So you can't just listen to what they're saying. You have to hear it and understand where it comes from to get the true meaning and lesson from everything that you're getting from the people that you have around you. And you should always be adding to that network.
I love that piece of advice. I saw a meme just last week that said, networking is so crazy. You can meet one person and become a millionaire. And I was like, that is so true. Like, you never know who you're going to meet. And by the way, the whole millionaire thing is like, anything, it could change your life. Any one meeting could change your life. Yeah. So I feel like, especially in our industry, and people think like, oh, networking is LinkedIn. Yeah. That's not what it means.
Listen, people really do want to do business with people that they like. And so it's like, be that person.
Be that person. This question is the whole thing. I already told you about this in advance. What is your superpower and how did you know?
Oh, the superpower is caring, because
big one.
By caring, you tend to connect better. So caring probably comes first, because if you truly care, you're also not connecting just for like the business relationship for your own individual growth, right? It's you're connecting because you truly care about that person, care about that story, care about what you can learn from them, care about what you can offer back. So I really, it's hard to care, but I do think that it has brought me great success by putting my heart out there and caring.
Well, from the collective government contracting community and the government side and the industry side, we have to say thank you for caring. And also thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you for caring enough to invite me.
As we draw the curtain on today's chapter of GovCom Unfiltered, I want to thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey through the intricate world of federal contracting. I'm Alexa Choi. And it's been an honor to navigate these stories of courage, innovation, and resilience with you. Until we meet again, keep pushing boundaries, exploring new horizons, and making your mark in the government contracting universe. Farewell for now, but not forever. Stay tuned for more adventures that await in the next episode of GovCom Unfiltered. Safe travels on your path to greatness, and remember, we are all on this journey together.